Thank you, Mayuko, for joining me here on Unleashing Light. I am so happy to have you as a guest. So if you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then I know you're going to talk to us about the Ho'oponopono, and I am so excited to just hear your experience with that. So
Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Mayuko Fukino. Hi from Mayhill. And so I'm a yoga teacher, but also I don't know how to really explain it. So I'm mind and body and heart and spirit coach. What I do is to bring out the best of each person and help them, guide them, being a conduit for them, to that way they can live their not only purposeful but also soul aligned life. So if there's a needing some healing, or whether that's ancestral healing or current life healing or all of the above, which that I believe. And so I channel and connect with their spirit guides or ancestors or Akashic reading and such. Then where the healing needs to be done, and healing will be there, and I can sort of like usher, them to get to align the soul purposeful life.
beautiful. And what brought you into this kind of work?
That's a good question. I believe I was given to have that, be in align with that work from very, very beginning time, and beginning time of my this current life, present life. And I got straight away, and I came back, and it's I think it's always through yoga practice. Then I have every time I return practicing, or in this time is learn to teach yoga, and that brings me back to who I am, who I'm meant to be on this earth. And then I get to have this experience of expanding myself, and then to share with other people.
Beautiful. That's great. So, okay, tell me how the Ho'oponopono prayer got brought to you, what it specifically means for people who are not familiar with that term, and how it's been helpful for you and maybe others.
Okay, so I came to this practice Ho'oponopono is about, I think it's 2018, through my good friend, and who is also astrologer. His name is Gregory Martin, and his wife Cherie Rose Martin, and they've been practicing this ancient Hawaiian spiritual practice of reconciliation and forgiveness. It's called Ho'oponopono, and Ho'o, it means to make, and pono it means right. So you hear pono twice, so it's almost like to make things right, doubly right, and or being right with your own self and with others. So that's what the Ho'oponopono means. And it is, I'm not a Hawaiian, so I have a lot to learn through practicing. I continue to learn, and I probably not be 100% doing things right. However,
We do the best we can, right?
yeah, and we learn through it, and it's literally a feeling of a, we often talk about layering onions, peeling off, or so it's absolutely a revealing of my own self. And
can you say a little
so,
bit more about that when you say the revealing of my own self? What do you mean?
So Ho'oponopono is ancient Hawaiian spiritual practice. And originally that is, as far as I know, and then how I learned was reconciliation of a family. And if I'm pronouncing this founder of Ho'oponopono, I apologize. And so Morna Simona, she's a Hawaiian, and she found this practice. And then a Dr. Hugh Len recently passed away, unfortunately. But he often, I learn it from him, not in person, but through, thankfully from this technology online. And so he says that it is a cleaning method. So I originally started off with I want to reconcile the relationship with my son, who kind of departed away from each other. And originally I was thinking, for me, and I want to clean his not doing this, in a sense. And it wasn't about me in not so great meaning, like, I thought it was, he's not the one contacting me. I'm the one doing the contact. He's not the one contacting me. So let me figure it out. Let me fix his doing or his behavior, in a sense. And but as I study more and as I practice, I realize, and then Dr. Hewlin often talk about in the teaching, is that, do you ever realize that when we have a problem, meaning I was listening, like, okay, when I am always there. When I bring out the problem, I'm always present in those issues. So the common denominator is me. Then Ho'oponopono is cleaning aspect is that accepting and having a total responsibility for everything about me and around me, meaning that I'm always present in that issues or non-issues. So the cleaning, it's almost like considering it's there. There's I don't remember the psychologist's name, but in psychology we have this brain is contained with the memories. Then think this, Dr. Hewlin talks about this, think of it as a computer. So when you computer, a whole bunch of information in the computer, and what do we do once in a while? We clean the computer in order for the computer to work properly. So by practicing Ho'oponopono, I'm like, Ho'oponopono is to clean our memories that we stored from the past. And then it could mean that, epigenetic or stored from past lives. But we're not going to get into that deeper on that side. But just even in thinking about this in current life, every time we feel a certain way, we are bringing out the memory from the past. And this computer that we have, you're going to determine if it's good or bad. when we compare in our memory, and we go back to repeating those memories over and over again. So in order for us to see as it is, the cleaning has to be done.
Got it.
So, and that goes into reconciliation of a family, but also that is reconciliation of my own self, of your own self.
Yeah.
And that
So
goes,
your son is still here. He's just distant from you.
he was, yes.
Was.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was for, I've gone through a divorce, and obviously I was going through emotional roller coaster even after.
Yeah.
And I know that to be true, and I'm sure that he's going through his own emotional roller coaster, whether that's against me, with me, or all of the above. And also he was also a teenager at that time. So that's a lot of stuff is going on.
Mhm.
And I originally started off with the egoistic way, is that I'm going to fix it for him. It wasn't about me. It wasn't of me fixing. But as I practice, there is a prayer, the mantra that with the Ho'oponopono is I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. So we don't have to have a knowledge of why it happened, why we are doing it. But then in the minute that we accept it or not, we are bringing out the memory. And by we practice saying this mantra, I love you. And we all know, we know this, like every single word has an energy to it. And so
Can you say it again, just so everybody can hear it a
yes.
second time?
Yes. So I love you.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I usually say I thank you, but thank you. So four sentences, four mantras, four prayers. And so Dr. Hewlin often taught us that as soon as we say the words I love you, you are immediately connected to divinity.
Hmm.
And I want to share, I'm a visual learner, so I just want to share from the book that I have. So this is the top is a divinity.
Mm-hmm.
And this part is a spiritual. And this part is mental, that we have this is us, right? Mental. And then this is a physical part. And the physical part is I'm not Hawaiian again, but I love this sound that they use is unihipili, is subconscious, and then uhane is a mental, and aumakua is a spiritual part, but it's a super conscious and conscious and subconscious. So as soon as we say the word, I love you, we are here, and then we immediately connect it to divinity. So, however, we have this life on this earth really congested, complicated. We're making ourselves complicated too. Yeah. So, and
it's really interesting, right? Because so many people do also struggle with just being able to say, I love you. And to know that that can be such a block is so interesting.
Yeah. So I don't think it's because of my cultural background. I was born and raised half of my life, not half, but a little bit more than a little bit of half life in Japan, and then the other half in the United States. So even though I was raised in the United States, for a long time, I had a hard time giving the hugs. I had a hard time saying the word "I love you," and this is half of the reason why is that in Japan we don't say "I love you."
What's
So I mean, we're not gonna get into deeper into that one, but it's I think it's collectively there is more historical, traditional, ancestral reason to it that most of the Japanese don't use often love, but it doesn't mean bad or good. It's just there's got to be a reason to it, and this is for another time.
Okay, we'll have you back again.
And so, but we are usually disconnected from the top part of spiritual part that we talked about. And therefore we are going back and forth on the mental and physical part, going up and down, and so confused. And so by saying I love you immediately connects us to divinity. And there, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's literally, I visually like to see that when I say this, I love you, whether that I'm saying it to somebody or during the practice, I imagine myself that there is sort of like a pillar connecting to divinity. So when again, I'm a visual person. So when I have that, I didn't have that in the very beginning, that I had a hard time, not only because, culturally, I had a hard time using those words, but also it was just something to it. But more I practice, more I say it out loud, more I say it in within myself, that it became not necessarily easy, but not complicated. I was able to immediately visualize the pillar that is reaching out. It's been there always, but I immediately sees that divinity reaching a hand to me, and that becomes the forgiveness, that becomes the acceptance and surrender, and it's leading into expansive, more of a cosmic universal experience.
Sure.
Then probably about, I'm a very stubborn person, so I didn't realize until like 3 weeks going on practicing it. And I was told that, no, you don't have to know the actual reason why you're doing it, why you're don't get fixated on this. Yeah. So as soon as I get, okay, I'm doing this for this, or I want to have this, then your mind is storing another memory of experience. But just doing, saying the mantra, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you. And some people does a different order, but it doesn't really matter. That by saying those mantra, immediately, more we practice, immediately takes us to what's the right word for it? It goes, there's a connection. You feel the presence of divinity, and that's, more we practice, it becomes more one with it. It wasn't separation.
And so what did happen when you started practicing this between you and your son? How did you?
So while I was practicing, I was continuing to reach out to him, texting, or leaving voice message and so on, which I had done before I started the Ho'oponopono practice. but I believe second months to it, and I received a phone call, not a text,
Mhm.
not the voice message. It was I picked the phone, and it was on the other side. It was my son's voice,
Mhm.
and
Had he not been reaching out at all prior to that?
no,
For how
no.
long?
Um, for 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
And then
since he
you got
was
2 months
16.
into the prayer and you got a phone call from him.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And it is, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I want to believe it, right? And um that's when it wasn't a necessary so-called good conversation, but it was more of communication has a two ways,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes even when we do a texting, sometimes you don't get a response right away, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, oh, I forgot.
Mhm.
So I I experienced sort of like uh not necessarily ESP, but so the divinity was a conduit in a sense. It was always there,
Mhm.
but by the I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, that I was energetically giving out, and divinity, the conduit was helping my son, sort of like an antenna to grow in a sense. And so the antenna, the frequency of the sort of like a radio, right, and matched up, then I totally feel that uh, he had to have a courage to be able to pick up the phone and dial my phone. Not dial, but push
I
one.
know. Yeah.
Like I'm totally old. um, so
So
it's
what did he say when he called?
he was very honest. I mean, this is what I really like about this. He didn't really it wasn't about me, or it wasn't about what happened. It was him be able to express how he felt before, how he's gone, what he has felt during this 4 to 5 years, and then how he's feeling at this moment. And he was very honest about how he is feeling, and it was important for me to know
Yeah.
that way I am not he requested that he is the one wanting to call, so I'm not the one making a phone call. And then I think it might be something to do with that. I don't, I mean, he doesn't want to get pressured or whatever that reason is. But when I was very happy to hear that um by this Ho'oponopono practice, the creating a space for myself to create a space for myself to accept where I am, and whether that's I'm forgiven whatever happened or not, to know where I stand, and then be able to forgive whatever the forgiveness I can do, that helped me to be able to give him a space to not to push or ask, hey, I want to make a phone call to you every single, week or anything like that. It was okay with me, like okay that it is right in front of me. I don't know if I'm explaining it well or not, but it's again, that goes back to Dr. Hewline often talk about is I'm always in it, whatever the situation is, the good or bad. And so then to take accepting what it is and having that total responsibility for everything in me and around me is going back to, he's also talked about the void, the zero part. It's almost like we often talk about, I often talk about the quantum physics part. And when we have a memory, we have this, we're on the screen right now, like we have this visual in our brain, the memory. But when we are able to delete that, like I mentioned about the computer, delete that memory, then finally we have a space to create. I don't necessarily want to say recreate, but create the relationship that we desire. So that whether in my case, that was a relationship with my son, but also relationship with anything, relationship with you, relationship with the computer. Sometimes often I have this issue with my laptop, relationship with plumbing that I had a few weeks ago, but that is that to come back to my own self. This is nothing about egoistic or being selfish. It's about me, you, yourself, myself, is that accepting what it is, who it is, where I am at, to be able to delete that, whatever that I created, whether that's good or bad, not just a bad only.
And so when somebody challenges you on the 4 mantras of I love you, I forgive you, I thank you, when they say, how is that going to work? This has been so many years and, they da 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 da, and they go into the story. How do you help them to understand how it really works? When you have naysayers or doubters that don't believe in the vibration or the power of prayer, what do you tell them?
I always go back to the computer because if we don't delete the stuff, I'm not a computer person, but if we don't delete our stuff, we start to get slower, we just start not to work, or don't do the job that it's supposed to do the job. And if it doesn't work, and I would always go back to this, I love talking about nature, but if everything is in a flow in the river, there's no reason for us to touch it or do anything about it. But maybe if there's a stop in a flow, we are going to find the blockage, or we may not have to find the blockage, is to whatever you see right in front, and you see the blockage there, and that you're going to eliminate it. So let's say in this case, the river, and you have it just happened, I just saw this huge tree just fell, and then literally, so there's a flow stopping of the river. So what do? If you want the river to flow, we're going to take that big old tree out of the river. And so sometimes it might take a lot of people or a lot of tools
Mhm.
And
And so when it does come down to a whole lot of other people, what do you do in that at that point? Because you're saying the prayer, but then it's like, oh, well, it might take a whole lot of other people. What do you do at that point?
so whole a lot of people, meaning it doesn't mean literally meaning that people. It could be, whatever it takes to. I love what Dr. Deepak Chopra says. Whatever it takes, get to a consciousness. So if we are needing other people to remind you to do the prayer, or prayer must be not just one time, it could be so many times it has to be done. I think it's me. I was so stubborn, so there is a time that a Ho'oponopono prayer works instantly. There is a time that it takes longer. Dr. Hulang is used this Ho'oponopono practice for mental ward patients. He never seen the patients. He just looked at the folder of each patient, and those that they are challenging patients to all the nurses there, and then they were really exhausted, and then really a short version of it is, so Dr. Hugh Len himself practice a Ho'oponopono in each, take a look at the file and then practice. And then the patient started to behave. It was very physical, but that become not physical and becomes a very peaceful place. And then therefore I heard that mental ward was closed, that a patient doesn't need to be there. So what it is there's an example like that, like Dr. Hugh Lang went through. And on my podcast that you reminded me to go back on the podcast, but that there's an unseen and seen part in this world that we live in.
Sure.
And earlier with my friends, we were sharing that there is a more of an unseen, the world that we live in.
Yes, very much.
So we don't have to know what is exactly happening. And when we say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, we are not going to know exactly why we are saying this. And then we're not ever going to know the 100% of it. So it is okay not knowing. I mean, there is a portion that we're going to know. That's why we ever going to think about practicing it or not practicing it. So, and then I believe that try it anyway.
Did you tell your son you were practicing this after?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what were his thoughts about it?
Yes. And so he is 24 now. And we continue to have a good relationship. He would call me, periodically. He's really good. He's really good at it. And his reaction is that, oh, okay. And then I believe it's I've always been believing in the unseen world. So, and I'm sure he is experienced as well. So he understand it, but all at the same time, oh yeah, there you go, mom, you're doing the thing. But that's okay. So I mean, he has a knowledge that Ho'oponopono practice. I'm getting mixed up. Ho'oponopono exist.
And so he does believe in it on some level.
And then that is when the time is right, And then I mean, there's a people who would practice it when it's supposed to, and then there's a people who doesn't have to practice. Meaning that doesn't mean but there's other tools in this world that will take us to
Mhm.
wherever we are supposed to be going. And then obviously there's a free will and such.
Mhm.
But I hope this whole Ho'oponopono practice, not only the the not only the reconciliation is a person to person or amongst the family member, but also I know that purifies uh, body and get rid of unpleasant memories and emotion. That's what it does, that collapsing the memories.
Mhm.
And that way we can, there's now more space for us to create that expansive moment. um, and Dr. Hewlin often said that there is a fear or love, you can't take both.
Mhm.
And we meant to pick love.
And so even after you reconciled with your son, did you continue to
Absolutely.
Very-
Absolutely. Yeah, it was not only about with my son. It is so that I recognized that it was about me, at me having that, to be able to accept who I am and to be able to forgive, to be able to reconcile within myself. It was never about,
Mhm.
it was me putting all on him. That is him not doing it, but actually I'm putting in myself to that point that I wanted to think it. So sort of like a leaving the responsibility to somebody else. And so when, by practicing I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, and then I did have a visualization having a tea with my son and such, but that's additional part, but that helps me to stay aligned with the practice. And in the midst of it, the process is that I have an aha moment to recognize that it was me.
And was the turmoil within you just how your marriage had fallen apart and how it didn't work, and then that was kind of what was eating you up that then affected your son?
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So my energy was pulling, put, and not in a good way, so emanating to him.
Yeah.
And I know that especially when they're young, the energetic,
They're so sensitive to it.
so open, so they're getting all those energy vampired, in a sense that includes including me. And I believe that was originally that's how it was, and then it was just physically that happened to him. It was me. Right, I was fearful of not having a good relationship with him. So do I choose fear or love? And by practicing this, I began to choose every time, every moment. When the fear creeps up always. Fear creeps up, but I'm always remind myself this practice has done a good for me. And therefore, when we continue to do so, and not only with my son, but also anything with I get mad or get sad or fearful in with my ex-husband, then what do I do? It is me um, not choosing, meaning that choosing love
And
and
so
collapse.
let me ask you about that. And I know maybe it was a little different culturally growing up in Japan of like not having the practice to be to say I love you. But with your experience here in the States or just others that you know, what do you really think the struggle is with people not being able to voice I love you? Because I see that even in my own family, right? That it's so difficult to say I love you. I mean, it's easy for me to say I love you, but for others, it's like almost just suppressed there.
And then again, that not be able to say, and that's including myself, right? And then not I don't always have a easy way to say I love you.
Mhm,
And yes, I understand, like you mentioned, like a culturally maybe, yes.
mhm,
And but I believe that that is coming from the experiences. Now again, I'm going to only talk about the current life, not the past lives or future lives, but
sure, sure.
okay, that we store the memory
Mm,
of a fear,
mm,
therefore we can't say, we can't experience, we don't want to experience because we believe
mm,
that memory store condition us to be to that's going to be love is going to be rejected when I say it, or love is going to be confused when I say it. So in order for us, so what, especially when we don't know why we are fearful of saying the word I love you,
mhm.
that's really confusing. And then
Yeah,
I'm saying it from my experience. It's
mhm,
I don't know why I'm having a difficult time saying I love you.
yeah.
And I have no idea. I don't know the origin. I don't know. I mean, I can do Akashic record and all that, and but there's like blockage, right? Thick old wall there.
Mhm,
But by practicing, sometimes it's very have to be forceful to say I love you
mhm,
in this practice. But every time, again, that goes back to divinity. When I say I love you, this is probably going to be next time, but there's more deeper meaning to it. So love from divinity is always there. There is a pillar always there. I'm the one blocking. So not on, this is not was not about with my son. It
mhm.
was me, my relationship with the divinity, higher self, all
Yep.
that, right?
And so I
And
guess I just have one other piece to that question. So sure, I understand, right? So sometimes we can have these experiences. We, maybe have a partner that we love or a family member that we love, and they're kind of refusing that love or whatever, it gets rejected. Do you also think or not that there's a component to somebody not being able to love themselves that they then truly can't say it? I do hear a lot of times when people admit that they don't love themselves, sometimes can still say that they love other people. But do you feel like that is part of what gets in the way or totally separate?
I believe so. I definitely believe so. Right. So then, therefore, like, just even maybe just a superficial saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you.
Mhm.
But know that that is divinity is always. So more we say it, there is sort of like a, antenna pillar getting clearer and clearer and clearer. Then again, the word always have it frequency and vibration. So more we practice it, then it'll be connected more because we're the one blocking it.
Yeah.
Divinity is not.
Yeah. Correct.
Then and more we say it, that becomes I am almost sure. I say almost because I don't see 100%, but almost sure that we all, when we practice, we're going to have that experience of a connection with divinity, or being one, being in that love. You are the love, be in that love. um so that goes back to be able to, because of love, when we choose love each moment the best we can, we are doing naturally we're doing this, collapsing those memory that we stored from a past, then we're not going to worry about, okay, what happened before. We're not even to worry about, but we don't have to experience worrying about it. Like, because, yeah.
Okay. Well, I am so happy to hear that this has been such a powerful practice for you and your son, and that it really did bring you guys so much peace,
Mhm.
And I'm also so thankful for your wisdom and sharing it with us here and your beautiful spirit and just the energy of that. Bringing that to my channel is just, I thank you very much for that. So we will, Mayuko, have you back to explain all the things we didn't get to today, but is there any other pieces that you feel like might be helpful?
So I'm very embodiment person, very movement person. So what helped me when I say I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, to put two hands over our heart. And we often think too much over here and we stay over here. And just to bringing that hand over our heart, you feel the heartbeat, you almost hear it. And that helps me, that helped me, or helps me, continue to help me, that I'm be able to visualize the connection that I get to have with the Father Sky, Mother Earth, um, to become one with love. And I do want to choose love over fear.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can spread more of that into the world.
Absolutely.
Do you mind just sharing the title and the author of the book that you were referencing before?
Okay. So this is in Japanese, but I know there's other people who've written in English. So this is called Aloha, and she might have written it in English as well because she's a Japanese American, and her name is Eileen. And but this is directed by Dr. Hugh Lin. And also there is a book called Zero Limit. And he was also directed, and Dr. Hugh Lin is directed as well, and with written by and approved by Dr. Hugh Lin, and written by Joe.
You don't have to remember. If you can't, that's okay. I can put it in the comments and leave that for people. But
okay,
I want to say thank you so much for just
thank you
sharing
so
your
much.
light. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have you back soon.
Thank you very much for your time, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayuko.